Foot pain turns to horror. What doctors find inside will haunt you forever. The sun dipped low, casting an eerie glow over the small town of Millfield. This wasn't just any typical day, it was the day Jenna felt a sharp, jarring pain in her left foot. At first, it seemed simple, she'd just twisted it while running for the bus. But as the pain worsened, sharp and throbbing like a relentless drum, strange worries began to bubble beneath the surface. Something didn't feel right, like a shadow lurking just out of sight. What was really going on? Days passed, and the pain morphed, taking on a life of its own. It seemed to pulse with a vivid red glow. Feverish nights morphed into a nightmare as Jenna lay in bed, the agony crept higher, gnawing relentlessly at her sanity. She could almost visualize something inside her foot, something alien, something dreadful. Curiosity turned to fear, and she found herself on the examination table, her heart pounding like a jackhammer. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows on the doctor's worried face. As the doctor examined her, a wave of disbelief washed over her. "This isn't good," he murmured, his eyes wide with shock. His gloved hands trembled as he felt the swelling, and Jenna's heart sank deeper into her chest. What could possibly be hiding beneath the surface? Images of parasites and horror stories spiraled in her mind, choking her with dread. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." Jenna's pulse quickened as the doctor retrieved his instrument's sharp, cold tools reflecting the fluorescent light. Would they dig into her skin? What horrors would they unearth? Her breath quickened, and visions of tunneling creatures gnawing at her flesh flooded her imagination. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in on her with an unseen menace. Then, with a sharp, metallic sound, the scalpel sliced through the first layer of skin. Jenna gasped, her fingers gripping the edge of the table like a lifeline. The doctor's face morphed as he peered inside, paling like a ghost. "What is it?" she wailed, the lump in her throat thickening, fear rising with each passing second. Silence descended, heavy and oppressive. The doctor's eyes widened, and a chill raced down Jenna's spine. What had they discovered? What lay cocooned in her flesh, waiting to be found? The air throbbed with fear, and she could hear the faint murmurs of clinic workers outside, their tones a mix of shock and urgency. What could be more outrageous than the idea of something monstrous hidden inside her? And in that moment, Jenna knew she had crossed a line between ordinary life and the pure horror that lurks just beneath the surface. What would they uncover next? The doctor inhaled sharply, his brows knitting together in disbelief, as he continued to probe deeper. Jenna's heart raced, each thump echoing in the suffocating silence. Just moments ago, she was an ordinary girl with an ordinary pain. Now, she felt like an unwilling participant in a horror story unfolding before her wide, terrified eyes. "What? What do you see?" she pleaded, her voice trembling. Desperation clawed at her throat. Shadows flickered on the walls as the fluorescent lights above flickered uneasily. The tension hung heavy, thick like fog, enveloping them both. It's not what I expected," he finally stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. His expression paled further, like he had just seen the ghost of an old nightmare. There's something working its way into the muscle tissue." The implications reverberated in Jenna's mind. "What does that mean?" she gasped, panic gripping her chest like a vice. The doctor hesitated, the scalpel hovering mid-air for just a heartbeat longer before he continued his examination. "We need to get you prepped for imaging. I can't tell you everything until we get a clearer picture." A shiver darted through Jenna. "Imaging? What kind of creature could be hiding inside her, lurking and twisting in ways she couldn't begin to imagine? She thought about the stories she had read, tales of rogue parasites breaking through flesh, taking over hosts. Is it alive? She whispered, her breath hitching at the thought. His silence was deafening, a heavy weight that told her more than words could. She squeezed her eyes shut, trying to ground herself in reality, to stave off the panic clawing at her from the inside. But reality felt like a cruel joke, and the pinprick of anxiety grew like a balloon swelling until it was about to burst. "Okay, Jenna, let us get you stabilized," the doctor said, snapping her back to the moment. "I'll need to call in the radiology team. This is urgent." As they moved swiftly, she caught a glimpse of the waiting room outside, where people sat, oblivious to the horror playing out behind closed doors. Each laugh, each casual conversation seemed to mock her pain. Just as the nurse entered, ready to wheel her away for images, Jenna felt an odd sensation, a strange pulsing that rippled through her foot. It was as if something was shifting, something that didn't want to be found. Panic shot through her veins, her thoughts racing. "Wait!" she shouted. What if it's trying to escape?" The nurse paused, her eyes darting between Jenna and the doctor, confusion painting her features. "Just stay calm," the doctor soothed, but his voice had an edge of urgency. "We have to escort you now." With that, they whisked her away, the harsh fluorescent lights flickering above, giving the moment an almost surreal quality. The corridor felt infinite. Jenna's thoughts spiraled. She couldn't shake the idea that whatever was inside her was conscious, aware. Did it sense her fear? Did it plan to take her over? As her heart hammered, she caught sight of her reflection in a glass panel, her face pale and drawn. And in that split second, she noticed something beneath the surface of her skin, a dark, skittering shadow racing beneath her ankle. Jenna's blood turned to ice, her breathing shallow as she realized the truth. "Get it out!" she screamed, desperation spilling from her lips as the world around her blurred with dread. What kind of nightmare had she unwittingly stepped into? The nurses hurried her down the hallway, but the fight for her body and soul was just beginning. What would she have to confront next? The noise of hurried footsteps echoed in Jenna's ears as she was wheeled toward the imaging room. It felt like a warped version of a nightmare, where a distorted reality lurked just out of sight, waiting to reveal its horrors. The stark white walls of the corridor seemed to close in around her, a prison of sterile white where no escape lay. "Please, just tell me what is going on," she pleaded again, her eyes darting from the doctor to the nurse, both of whom maintained their focus on their tasks, faces set in grim determination. "Just a few more moments," the doctor replied, the calmness in his voice contrasting sharply with the turmoil inside her. In those few moments, Jenna fought against the rising tide of dread. She could feel it again, the pulsating sensation, almost rhythmic now, squirming beneath her skin as if it was responding to her growing anxiety. She imagined it clawing, desperate to break free. A gasp escaped her lips. What if it's trying to get out? She croaked, almost to herself. "It won't, Jenna. We're going to find out what it is," the doctor urged, though his eyes glinted with concern. The nurse pushed her into the imaging room, its cold, clinical environment a stark reminder that she was now just another patient, one with something sinister hiding in her flesh. As they prepared the machine, Jenna's thoughts spiraled again. Fear knotted in her stomach, drawn tight like a noose. What if it was more than just a parasite? What if it was something worse? The doctor placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, his grip warm against her clammy skin. "You're doing great. Just try to relax." "Relax? How can I relax?" she shot back. "There is something alive inside me." "We're here to help you," the nurse added gently, but as she secured Jenna's feet and placed the protective lead apron over her body, Jenna flinched. She had never felt so trapped. The machine began to hum, a low thrum that vibrated through Jenna's bones. The nurse slid the entrance closed, enveloping her in a tunnel of darkness. Alone with her fears, she squeezed her eyes shut, imagining what lay within. A rustling feeling intensified, a frantic scrambling now, as if whatever was inside scoffed at the confines surrounding it. Was it even trying to escape, or was it playing some kind of cruel game? A siren sound blared through the machine, and Jenna's chest tightened. The tension held on her breath like a vice, each passing moment feeling like an eternity. The doctor's voice broke through the noise, calm yet urgent. "Stay still, Jenna." What did they see? She felt tears prick her eyes. The thought of something unholy existing within her ripped through her mind like wildfire. How had this nightmare begun? What had she done wrong? When the sound ceased, the darkness seemed to thicken. Suddenly, the door swung open with a bang, jolting her from her spiraling thoughts. The doctor's face looked grave. "Jenna, we need to talk," he said, his voice low. Every instinct urged her to bolt, a primal fight-or-flight response igniting within her. There was something in his gaze, an unspoken weight that held more than just the urgency of a medical emergency. "What did you see?" she managed, feeling a lump in her throat that threatened to choke her. "Something's not right. You need to listen to me." Before he could finish, a low growl emerged from deep within her, surging into an unintelligible scream. It felt like a punch to the gut, and Jenna's eyes widened in horror. The fight was now on both fronts. "What's happening?" she screamed, skin crawling as the sensation escalated. Something was pushing from within, and just like that, she realized, the battle wasn't just for her body, but her very soul. How far would she have to go to uncover the truth? As the doctor leaned closer, the weight of new revelation loomed in the air. What had she gotten herself into? The clock was ticking, and darker forces were rising. Would they manage to unearth the terror before it took her completely? The darkness inside the imaging room felt alive, pulsing like a heartbeat, a heavy, invasive rhythm that echoed Jenna's own. Every breath she took was a reminder that something sick and twisted was clawing for release inside her. "Jenna! Stay with me." The doctor's voice sliced through her panic. She turned her head, blinking against the sterile light above, gasping for control. "What do we do?" she choked, every word feeling like a struggle against the weight pressing against her chest, urging her to scream, to fight, to escape. "Just focus on my voice," he replied, urgency creeping into his tone. "We need to get you stabilized." "Can you do that?" Stabilized? How was she supposed to think of the mundane when her insides were screaming like a wild animal? Another growl erupted from within her, louder this time, vibrating her entire body. Jenna's heart raced, and she could almost feel the cold sweat bead on her brow. The doctor glanced at the nurse, eyes wide with concern. They shared a silent exchange, one Jenna didn't want to decipher. Something was terribly wrong. "Jenna, we have to get you prepped for surgery immediately," the doctor stated firmly, calming the tremor in his voice as best he could. "There's something inside you, and we need to remove it." "Remove it?" The panic surged anew. What if it fights back? What if it's more than just a parasite? The doctor hesitated, then his lips pressed into a thin line. "We'll take every precaution, but you need to know this is serious." "Serious?" Jenna echoed, her voice trembling with disbelief. Was there any other word for it? Sweat dripped from her brow as she felt another violent throb deep inside, and a shiver raced down her spine. "You don't understand. It feels alive." The doctor nodded, his brows knitting together. "That's exactly why we need to act now. This isn't just a simple procedure, Jenna. There are risks involved." As he spoke, the world around her faded in and out. Jenna's focus narrowed, and all she could hear was the thunderous ache in her belly, increasing with each passing second. She had to get it out. Whatever it was. "Prep her for the OR," the doctor instructed, urgency coursing through his words. The nurse started gathering supplies again, her movements swift and purposeful. Panic turned into desperation. "Please, you have to get it out before it breaks free." Jenna, listen to me." The doctor leaned closer, his expression shifting to one of deep empathy. "We're going to do everything we can to keep you safe. You have to trust us." Trust? In that moment, under the fluorescent lights and surrounded by the fear tightening around her throat like a noose, what could she trust? Suddenly, another shout erupted from her gut, a guttural, terrifying sound that felt like it belonged to another being, another creature clamoring for its freedom. Jenna writhed, the sheet beneath her slick with sweat and tension. "I can't!" The door burst open with the force of a storm, and in rushed two more doctors, their expressions a mix of alarm and determination. "What is going on?" one barked, gathering information as if Jenna were a ticking time bomb. "Something's inside her," the doctor who first attended to her replied, exasperation seeping into his voice. "We don't know what, but it's reacting violently. Get her prepped now." The new doctor snapped. Jenna felt every pair of eyes piercing into her like needles. With frightening speed, they maneuvered around her as if she were already lying on an operating table. The weight of the impending surgery loomed like a specter. She wasn't just facing surgery, she was facing the unknown, a venture into darkness. "What if it wins?" Jenna whispered. She looked each doctor in the eye, pleading silently for a glimmer of hope among the dread that enveloped her. "The only way to win is to fight, Jenna," one doctor stated firmly, gritting his teeth. "We need to go now." As they wheeled her away, Jenna's heart pounded, not just from fear but an unsettling instinct, a deep-seated prophecy that said whatever lay inside her was ready for war. And in that darkness, she realized. This wasn't just about survival, it was about understanding the very fabric of what lay within her flesh, her mind, her very soul. What if the real horror wasn't the creature inside her but the truth it would reveal? Would she even be the same once this battle for her body was over? As the door swung open, Jenna took a deep breath. The pulse of fear lingered, but this time, it was laced with fury. There was no turning back now, and the real fight was about to begin. "Let us do this," she murmured, steeling herself. But as they prepped her for surgery, a louder growl echoed, sending chills through the room. It was just the beginning, and Jenna braced for the fight of her life. How many secrets did that creature hold? Would the truth be more terrifying than the darkness inside? The sterile scent of antiseptic mixed with the metallic tang of fear. Jenna lay strapped to the operating bed, her heart racing in sync with the blaring machines surrounding her. Bright lights mixed with shadows danced around, cascading over anxious faces as the surgical team geared up. The atmosphere was charged, and Jenna couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom that blanketed the room like a thick fog. "Count backwards from 10, Jenna," the anesthesiologist said, her voice cool and professional, but Jenna could hear the slight shake in it too. 10-9 Jenna began, but the growl from deep inside her made her pause, a horrific, vibrating echo that snatched the very breath from her lungs. It felt like an alarm bell, a warning sign that something primal lurked within, waiting for its moment to strike. "Keep counting." The doctor barked, urgency piercing the air. There was no time for hesitation. Jenna managed to continue, but the numbers felt jumbled in her mind, twisting and contorting as the terror mounted. 8-7 The sensation of cold metal against her arm came as the anesthetic flowed into her veins, a veil of darkness attempting to pull her under. But that dark curtain only tightened the grip of the creature within. Waves of chaos surged through her, thrashing like a trapped animal, clawing to escape the confines of her body. "No! No! Let me out!" She screamed inwardly, her thoughts drowning in the rising tide of panic. As the darkness consumed her, she caught a glimpse of its terrible eyes, a reflection in her own. It wasn't just any creature, it was a piece of her, fused within her very being. The last coherent thought in her mind was that confronting this darkness might reveal a truth she was unprepared to face. With a violent snap, everything went black, and Jenna sank into oblivion, awareness returned in fragments. Sounds were muffled, and she could feel vibrations, fuzzy echoes mixed with a menacing thumper racing from deep inside her. "Where am I?" The thought barely formed, yet it screamed for release. "Jenna? Can you hear me?" Someone was speaking. Familiar, yet distant. "The doctor maybe?" The voice held a sense of urgency that sent chills along Jenna's spine, and that guttural growl rattled again in torment, louder now, like a battle cry. Something isn't right. Jenna wanted to scream, but her mouth felt heavy and foreign. Panic coursed through her, she wanted to bolt upright, to tear through the silence that seemed to conspire against her. Then came the eerie quiet like a pause before a tempest. Jenna strained to pull herself from the haze, focusing through the fog of anesthesia that still clung to her mind. In the thick silence, she heard it whispers. "They could be never anticipated this," one voice murmured, barely above a whisper. "If it has attached as we believe, it could. Shoo. We must be swift." Another voice interrupted, panic tinged with a sense of authority. "This isn't just a medical case, it's something far beyond." Jenna's pulse quickened. They were talking about her, her insides, the creature inside her. What the hell were they seeing? Suddenly, the weight lifted, and clarity pierced through the fog. "Wake up, Jenna. You can't let them take you." She urged herself, her voice a mere whisper in her mind that as if responding to her thought, the most primal terror erupted from her gut. The doctor sprang back, eyes wide. "Scalpel. Now." Her heart thundered as powerful convulsions rocked her body, the sheet beneath her slick with electricity and dread. She was coming apart at the seams, and the creature inside roared in defiance, ready for the fight, and then, the lights above flickered a sudden power surge, and with it, the shrill alarms chimed like war horns. What came after was a confluence of chaos, the room erupting into pandemonium. Something was breaking loose, something wild and cruel. Jenna gasped for air, locked in a battle she could not fully comprehend. For every ounce of strength she poured into surviving this ordeal, the creature responded, something primal awakened. What raw secrets were they unearthing? Would the next moment reveal more horror than she could bear? But just as she thought she might gain control, an unmistakable rip echoed through her. A jolt of cold terror surged through her. Something had torn through. Was it her body? Or the creature? And in that moment, Jenna realized, she wasn't just fighting a creature to survive. She was fighting for dominion over her own fate. What would happen when the two worlds collided? Would she stand, or would she fall into the darkness forever? Searing pain shot through Jenna, as if a firework had exploded inside her chest. Shadows danced erratically on the walls, flashing like a strobe light, giving glimpses of frantic faces. The surgeon's hands were poised above her, instruments glinting coldly, while medical staff scrambled, their shouts ringing in her ears like a symphony of chaos. "Hold her down!" Someone yelled, urgency spilling over into panic. The creature inside her screamed again, a deafening roar that might have belonged to some ancient beast. It thrummed with energy, filling her with dread and raw power. Jenna couldn't understand how or why this was happening, but she felt a terrible awareness creeping in. This was more than a mere struggle for control. It was a clash of titans, a battle for her very essence. She twisted her head, trying to catch a glimpse of the team's desperate faces. There was fear and confusion, a realization that something was very wrong. A doctor stumbled back from a table, eyes wide. It's not just the tumor. There's another presence," he shouted, disbelief spilling from his lips. Jenna felt the creature surge again and instinctively fought back, the adrenaline coursing through her. She had to wrest control, it was her only hope. With each jerk, the restraints seemed to be unbinding her will. Memories of her life flooded in, moments of laughter and bliss before this nightmare began. Then came a gut-wrenching tug, like a rift forming between her consciousness and the monster within. Part of her felt like it was stretching apart. Jenna's vision blurred, then sharpened as if she had crossed a threshold. She was standing on the edge of a precipice, teetering between humanity and whatever dark entity haunted her. The doctor's voice penetrated her haze. "Jenna, listen. You need to focus. You can fight this. Don't let it consume you. Consume her." It echoed through her mind. The creature roared in response, a sound like metal scraping across bone, desperate to assert its dominance. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw another nurse duck under a table, their face drawn with fear, and an inexplicable anger ignited in her. "No. Not today. You won't win." Jenna seethed. With a surge of concentrated will, she pushed against the wall that confined her, and suddenly, it felt like a dam bursting inside her. The energy crackled like lightning, snaking through her veins with righteous fury. In that moment, Jenna grasped the truth she had feared: this creature was a part of her, one that nourished on her fears, her doubts. "Get out!" she bellowed, her voice morphing into a guttural growl, equal and opposite to the creature's. The room shook under the force of her rage, instruments toppled, and light flickered as chaos peaked. To Jenna's shock, the doctor didn't retreat. Instead, their eyes widened with a blend of terror and intrigue. "Jenna, if you keep this up," but she couldn't hear him over the clamor of throbbing pain, piercing clarity, and roaring primal instinct. The simmering conflict escalated, a cyclone of chaos brewing inside her. Then, with an explosive force, reality cracked. In a heartbeat, Jenna felt something like a glass shard pierce the very fabric of her being. There was a flash of blinding light, and for just a moment, time froze. As Jenna gasped, the world around her fragmented. Shapes blurred and twisted, and the very notion of self began to unravel. What had surfaced was no longer just a hostile presence but something far more terrifying, a dark mirror reflecting her own soul. And in that terrifying instant, she understood, the surgery was only the beginning. The real horror lay in what she had to confront next. What lay beneath her skin? And how would she face what had been awakened? Before she could ponder further, heavy footsteps thundered into the room, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of keys rattling. A new figure emerged, one cloaked in authority, but whose very presence felt charged with foreboding. "Dr. Hargrove," he called, commanding attention. "We're going to need to escalate this procedure immediately." Jenna's heart raced as the implications settled heavily. The darkness had awoken, and now it was time for the real fight to begin. What would the walls of her mind reveal when the confrontation escalated? And who or what could save her now? The figure stepping into the room was a sturdy man in a crisp white coat, his brow furrowed with focused determination. Dr. Hargrove, momentarily distracted by the urgency of Jenna's condition, glanced at his new associate, who seemed to radiate an aura of authority and unyielding resolve. There was no time to waste. "Prepare the sedatives," the man instructed, his voice chillingly calm, cutting through the chaos like a knife. The nurses sprang into action, a blend of trepidation and obedience transforming their expressions, yet beneath it all was a palpable tension. Jenna felt the undeniable shift in the atmosphere, as if the room itself was holding its breath. She could taste the fear on her tongue, the fear of those around her. They might think they could tame the beast within her, but it had already latched onto her, feeding off her very essence. Could they even grasp the gravity of what lay beneath? Suddenly, a piercing surge of energy rippled through her, a blinding light ignited within, as if her heart was a supernova bursting into life. Pulses of pain shot through her, and with it, the haunting whispers of the creature echoed even louder, drowning out her own cries of strength. "Fight it, Jenna. Don't let it take you." Dr. Hargrove shouted, desperation creeping into his tone. Jenna clenched her fists, fighting against the restraints that felt like chains binding her to despair. She needed to push back harder. She had fought too long to be subjected to this. In a moment of clarity, Jenna's mind opened wider. Memories unfurled like a film reel in front of her, the carefree laughter in sunlit parks, warm embraces from loved ones, the safety of her own skin. Each one ignited a new flare of defiance, a shield against the darkness gnawing at her soul. "I am not yours," she roared. The walls of her mind throbbed in response, warping and shifting, bending to her will. The creature unleashed another furious roar, defiant but weakened, and a tremor surged through the room, rattling instruments on the nearby trays. The doctors exchanged glances, uncertainty mingling with dread. "Jenna! Remember who you are. Focus. The doctor urged, but her vision began to distort again, weaving together nightmares and fleeting memories. Shadows and figures warped into monstrous forms, writhing like serpents bound to her psyche. Each flicker was a reminder of dread, of dark desires that lived inside her. What had she become? With a final effort, she harnessed every last vestige of her human will. Sweat beaded on her forehead, her breath rapid and desperate. She strained against the restraints, feeling them snap, both metaphorically and in reality. As if sensing her resolve, the creature within shrieked, the sound reverberating like a siren through her fractured being. Suddenly, the door burst open again. A group of specialists rushed in, armed with equipment that glimmered ominously under the overhead lights, tools for an escalating emergency. The tension in the air heightened, electrifying the dynamic. Behind them, the new figure, an imposing woman with an intensity in her eyes, surveyed the chaos. Prepare for extraction. This is no ordinary case, she commanded, hands raised as a signal for calm. Jenna's heart raced at the implication of those words, the stark reality sinking deeper. They were about to take her somewhere beyond her comprehension, somewhere unfathomable. Just as the crowd of staff surrounded her, a deep rumbling emanated from her core, a final farewell from the darkness, a promise that it would not be easy. Get ready. The doctor shouted. As they closed in, Jenna stared into the eyes of the beast within, defiance coloring her gaze. You will not win. Not today. The air thickened with anticipation as the lights shimmered, and the room spun into a vortex of blinding light and oppressive darkness. What awaited her on the other side? Would she emerge whole, or would she be consumed forever in the depths of the unknown? The blinding light swallowed Jenna whole. The cacophony of voices faded, replaced by a profound silence that hummed like a distant echo in her ears. She could feel the sensations of the room slipping away, their weight lifting like fog rolling into the sunshine. But instead of relief, dread settled into the very marrow of her bones. Darkness, thick and suffocating, enveloped her. She was caught in a void, a space that stretched endlessly, where time itself felt detached from the world above. Panic clawed at her as the memories of her struggle began to vanish. No more voices to anchor her, no faces to reassure her. Just the relentless growl of the creature within, growing stronger and more insistent. Jenna, a voice called, soft and familiar. Mom. Jenna gasped, but the voice echoed softly, as if it were a wisp of smoke. She reached out instinctively, desperate for connection, but her fingers grasped nothing. There was a pause, thick and oppressive, before a surge of heat cascaded through her. It ripped away the shadows, illuminating a landscape of grotesque visions. Before her stood looming figures, twisted remnants of her own fears. Each form reflected a part of her guilt, loss, longing, all warped into monstrous shapes. Their laughter twisted into howls. Jenna stumbled back, overwhelmed. Stop. Get away from me. But the creatures reveled in her pain, circling her like vultures eyeing their prey. The darkness within her fed them, filling their forms, lifting their shadows to a new vitality. Just then, the scene around her shifted. The blinding light was back, this time searing her vision. A metallic chill sliced through the air. Jenna found herself on an operating table, strapped down. Equipment beeped rhythmically, each sound a cruel reminder of her reality. Wait. Let me go. She cried, but the restraints held firm. The imposing woman from before stood over her, eyes a mix of determination and unblinking focus. We're not here to hurt you, Jenna, she said firmly. But we need to know what you're hiding. Something is very wrong, something dark. The light above flickered ominously even as the woman leaned in closer. Jenna felt her heart race, the truth clawing at her throat. What could she say? What was she hiding? We're going to access your mind. You may not like it, but it's the only way, the woman continued. What do you mean? Jenna stammered, dread pooling in her stomach. What will you find? The woman straightened, her gaze unwavering. More than you realize. Before Jenna could process the threat, ice-cold tendrils snaked through her mind, prying open her memories. It felt invasive, like a thief rummaging through drawers, unearthing things better left buried. Every secret, every moment of shame and weakness fell like autumn leaves, swirling into the vortex of chaos she had fought so hard against that a scream tore from her lips, raw and primal. They were dragging her into the depths of herself, past the serene laughter and warm embraces, into deeper realms. She saw horrifying flashes, faces twisted in pain, fear reflected in their eyes. Loved ones? Or shadows of those she'd lost? Stop! Jenna bellowed, but the force was stronger than she could comprehend. The darkness within roared defiantly, igniting another surge in her heart, a pulse synchronizing with the chaos unfolding around her. She felt her essence fraying, unraveling as they seized control. And beneath the surface, the creature stirred, angry, ravenous, desperate for release. Was this extraction a door to liberation or to perdition? What would they unleash once they peeled back the layers of her soul? The woman's eyes widened as realization dawned, horror dripping from her words. It's more than just pain, it's alive. The darkness coiled tighter, and Jenna understood, it was a battle for her very being. Would she allow it to consume her, or find a way to reclaim the light? In that moment, everything hinged on her choice. What lay beyond those shrouded depths? Would she face the monster alone, or could she trust the hands reaching out to guide her? Jenna's scream echoed through the void, reverberating off the unseen walls of her tormented psyche. Every ounce of energy felt like it was being pulled into a black hole. She was losing herself, piece by piece, and the weight of the darkness pressing down on her was suffocating. Shadows danced around her, mocking her cries, their dreadful forms twisting with her own regrets and fears. The woman loomed closer, her expression shifting from determination to unease. "We have to counteract it, Jenna," she said, voice tinged with urgency. "You need to fight. Don't let it take you." Jenna felt the icy tendrils tighten their grip as a wave of fury coursed through her. "Fight?" she spat back, her voice sharp. "How can I fight something that's part of me?" With every word, the shadows erupted, swirling violently. They were no longer mere reflections of her fears, they morphed into physical manifestations, throbbing with energy and intent. The darkness emitted low growls that vibrated through her core, a primal warning of what was to come. She felt the heat of anger meld with the ice of fear, crafting a storm within her. "Do you see it?" The woman's gaze was transfixed, and Jenna followed her eyes to a blurring mass that surged from her center. It writhed and shuddered, bearing fangs that glinted as it threatened to escape. It felt like a living thing, a beast hungry for release, and Jenna drove her energy to contain it. "You have to remember." The woman pressed. "Focus on what you love, on the light. It can weaken it." Images flooded through Jenna's mind, her mother's warm embrace, laughter at family gatherings, the fleeting moments of joy overshadowed by trepidation. Each memory sparked a flicker of light, and for each flicker, the beast shrank back, hissing and seething against the onslaught, but the darkness fought back, biting at her thoughts, dredging up memories she wished stayed buried. Faces distorted in anguish filled her vision, events she wished to forget clawed at her consciousness. Could she let those memories go? Or would they guide her to the source of this darkness? "No. I won't let you take me," Jenna shouted, though it was barely a whisper against the roar of chaos surrounding her. With every ounce of strength, she summoned the love she felt in her life, letting it swell and pulse in her chest. The shadows recoiled as she pushed out the light, amplifying her defiance. Suddenly, the world around her erupted in blinding radiance. The grotesque figures screeched, their forms disintegrating into ashes, fading into nothingness. Jenna felt the grasp of the icy tendrils loosening. For a fleeting moment, she was free, but then another force surged from within, growing louder, more furious than before. The creature writhing inside her erupted, taking a new shape, a nightmarish visage that commanded her attention. "You think you can banish me?" It rumbled, echoing through the chamber of her mind. "I am your fears, your regrets. I'll never leave." Terror flooded her again, yet something in Jenna snapped. She wouldn't let this creature define her. With every fiber of her being, she roared back, "You don't own me." And in that instant, the light flickered around her, as if sealing the boundaries between light and darkness. But the shadows were not finished. They lunged again, and she could feel the tug, the unrelenting pull of the creature threatening to ensnare her once more. Was she strong enough to obliterate it, or would it claim her entirely? As the light blazed and shadows crept closer, Jenna realized this wasn't just a battle for her soul, it was a battle for her life. Would she rise from the ashes or succumb to the beast lurking just below the surface? The stakes couldn't be higher, and the answer lay waiting within her hidden, dark, yet tantalizingly close. The ground beneath her felt unstable, unraveling as the battle raged on. What she didn't know was what would happen when she finally faced that darkness head-on. The world erupted around Jenna, twisting between light and shadow. She could feel the creature inside her, pulsating with rage, echoing her fears, her regrets. This was her final stand, the moment she had to face what it truly meant to be whole, to reclaim her life from the depths of despair. The shadows hissed, spitting vile words that made her heart race. "You can't escape who you are. I am your darkness." It roared, its voice reverberating through the very fabric of her being. But Jenna shook, resisting, her breaths quickening in defiance. "You're wrong," she shouted, summoning every ounce of strength, every flicker of light she had left. "I am not defined by you." The opposing forces collided. The shadows lunged, forming grotesque shapes that twisted and turned, and Jenna pushed back, drawing whatever she could from the love, the memories that flickered in her mind. She saw herself as a child, running through sun-soaked fields, warmth wrapping around her like a comforting cloak. Laughter echoed against the walls of her mind, a reminder of joy, a promise of better days to come. "Fight!" The woman's voice rang through the chaos, steady and clear. "You need to hold on to the light." Jenna fought back, defiance igniting like a long-dormant flame within her. "I won't to let you win." The shadows screeched in response, flailing as she pushed them away, forcing light into the void that insisted she succumb. And slowly, bit by bit, the shadows began to quiver, the creature within her faltering under the weight of her resolve. "More!" the woman urged, stepping to the side as the shadows whirled around, retreating in fear. Jenna could feel the power of her memories flooding her veins. Intense, beautiful moments of her life surged within, each one a weapon against the darkness that clung to her. She focused on every laugh, every gentle touch, transforming them into a radiant shield, but the creature sought to reclaim control, its voice roaring through her. "You don't understand. You will never escape me. Watch me." She countered, channeling every ounce of light into a shimmering pulse that radiated from her heart. With one final surge, she turned inward, facing the swirling chaos head-on. The sacrifice, the pain, the sorrow that had held her hostage, it was time to acknowledge it, to accept it, rather than let it define her. "I accept you," she shouted, versatile energy lifting around her, binding the darkness in a way it had never anticipated. "But you don't rule me." The swirling forms of shadow melted away, retreating from the luminous pulse, setting her insides free. Just as hope began to bloom, the creature lashed out, clawing at her insides, threatening to pull her back into suffocating despair. "You think you're stronger? You're nothing without me." But Jenna pressed on, remembering the faces of those who had loved her, who still loved her. She fought with the might of their love as her armor. "I am stronger. I am not alone." With a final, defiant scream, Jenna burst forward, and the shadows erupted around her like a thunderous storm, the clash of energy radiating in a blinding wave. The world around her exploded in a brilliant light that swallowed the darkness whole, lifting her, spinning her into a different reality, a peaceful, serene space where shadows no longer danced menacingly at the edges. When her vision cleared, Jenna was lying flat on an operating table. The sterile scent of antiseptic hung in the air, and doctors surrounded her, faces a mix of concern and relief. "You did it," the woman said, relief spilling into her tone as she peered down at Jenna with awe. "You faced it and won." Jenna felt tears hot in her eyes, shock and exhaustion washing over her in waves. What happened?" She searched the faces around her, desperate for confirmation. You broke free from the entity, Dr. Hargrove explained, his voice steady as if grounding her in the reality she had fought to reclaim. It's gone. You're free. The words settled over her like a warm blanket, easing the doubts that lingered in her heart. Jenna inhaled deeply, feeling lighter than she had in a long time. She had not only fought for her body, she had fought for her very spirit, reclaiming the light that had once dimmed in the shadow of fear. As Jenna looked around at the team whose hands had helped guide her back, she felt a swell of gratitude. They were more than just saviors, they were witnesses to her battle and her victory. Thank you, she whispered, the weight of the last few harrowing hours crashing over her like waves against the shore. As their triumphant smiles met her gaze, something deep within her healed in a way she hadn't anticipated. She wasn't merely escaping the darkness, she was stepping into the brightness of a new beginning, one forged from acceptance, love, and unwavering strength, and in that moment, she realized the journey wasn't over, it was just beginning. The darkness hadn't vanished completely, but it would no longer control her. Jenna had faced her fears and emerged a warrior, a survivor with the power to shape her destiny. She took a deep breath, preparing to step into life once more, a world waiting for her embrace. Now, amazing friends, this is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss any more incredible stories like Jenna's. Smash that like button now to show you support and help us grow. And don't just stop there, flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about Jenna's journey and how she faced the darkness. We want to hear from you. This is the time to connect, so instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Let us spread the light together, and remember, you are never alone in your battles.